Hello.
Welcome to the Nobody Talks About It podcast.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm Karen. And today we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people might be thinking, but nobody's really saying out loud.
So let's get started.
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to part 2 of Quitting Your Country. If you remember, last episode we were talking about the characteristics one needed to move abroad or to quit your country. And today we're going to be looking at the pros and cons. Right, Karen?
Yes, we're going to be breaking down 5 areas that we deem most essential for survival, such as social, logistical, food, healthcare, and your job.
Wow. Okay. And what's really exciting, something new, today we have clips of our friends who live abroad. We were sharing or we were talking about this episode, and they said some really interesting comments, and we've decided, with their permission, of course, to use their comments in our podcast. So you'll be hearing from Tim and
Brittany. They are our friends who used to teach with us in Panama, and now they are living and working in South Korea. They are both initially from the United States. They are math gurus and teachers.
Oh, maybe they'll help us go viral. Could this be it?
They know the numbers, baby. They know the numbers. So yeah. So when you hear other voices that are not Karen and Michelle, it is Tim and Brittany.
And where are Tim and Brittany?
South Korea.
Wow. Okay. We are truly international. So let's get started. What are we starting with?
So the first area we're going to break down for you in terms of pros and cons will be the social aspects of living abroad. And we're going to start with Tim's thoughts.
Hello, Karen. My con of living abroad, of moving abroad, is sometimes the struggle to have connections with family that are more day to day. And like there's like the struggles to have like a concrete community that you build over time. Oh, that's a good one. But that's what I would say is that living abroad, sometimes I love the communities that we have here, but sometimes I think about if I lived in one place for X amount of years, I'd really build a strong one, perhaps.
Okay, so I gotta say, I completely agree with Tim. I think my biggest guilt and stress about living abroad comes down to my family and the fact that I'm far away from them, and people are aging, and at the same time, people are being born into the world, and I'm not there for the deaths or the births or all the in between. And there is nothing like family. And you can't replace that.
Yeah, most definitely the connection with your family, or not being around for the special events, or not seeing them, or when there's an activity, like you said, a birth, a wedding, whatever it may be, you're not there. And that is really, really tough. And that would most definitely be a big, big con, is not being with your family, especially if you're really close to your family.
Yeah. And in regards to the strong community that Tim mentioned, I agree with that as well. I think this is now my 6th year living in Panama, and I've definitely built up my community. I have a very close circle of friends that I consider family, but it's still not the same necessarily as being home. And that took 6 years of building. I think if you're having this transient lifestyle where you're moving around a lot and spending maybe 2 years in one place or 3 years in another, you're not going to have that strong community. I think I have that in Panama because of the time that I've been here.
Where does your community come from? Like, where is it coming from?
My classroom at school.
Well, which is my point. Like, I agree. It is very hard to build a community, maybe even outside of your job.
That's actually, that's a great point.
Because,
in New Jersey.
Okay. I'm sorry. No, because, of a cultural difference, the language barriers, and I just think the cultural differences. Sometimes it's hard to understand and make those connections. There's a lot of differences. So building that community that's outside of, say, your job, might be a little bit difficult. I would agree with that.
That's a great point. I will say most of my friends are from my job, and it can be really hard to find friends outside of work if you're living abroad.
Yes, most definitely. Very, very hard. And also what he was talking about, building a stronger community. I think that is true, because that takes a lot of effort. I mean, it does take effort even being at home, maintaining your friendships, your family, or whatever circle that you have around you, but it's even doubly hard, or if not triply hard. Is that a word? Triply?
Now
Hard.
it is.
It is now on the outside. So those are things to definitely consider if you're thinking about moving abroad, quitting your country, or just trying to find a new job, being nomadic. The community and connections and family are an issue, or can
And
be.
yeah, and the difference is you'll have new friends versus long-term friends. However, I'm shifting to the pros here. I think the bonds you form with people outside of your comfort zone, internationally, in these challenging situations, understand you and what you're doing more than maybe people back home. I've bonded over things with people here in Panama and in Italy that my friends or family can't understand because they weren't there with me. You meet people that are more like you when you're moving abroad.
But within your circle of like work, or are these people like local
Both.
people?
I think,
Both.
yeah,
Okay.
I think other international teachers, they get what it's like going through the move and being in a new country and struggling with language issues and things like that, bank account issues. But the local friends understand what it's like to be there, so they can relate to your frustrations over certain things.
Or
And they
laugh at your frustrations.
or or help you through them, as all
Or
my
help
friends
them.
do
Yeah,
here.
yeah. They could help you as well.
My survival. But and then there's also the issue of dating. That's another social that could be pro con. I feel like all the advice I've ever heard is find an Italian, you'll learn the language.
No,
Date a Panamanian, you'll be fine. You'll learn the language.
no,
Nope.
no. I'm here 25 years married to a Panamanian, and I still don't have the language down. I mean, I'm very like fluent, and I could curse somebody out if I needed to, or tell them to go to hell and things like that. But yeah, it's still a little
Dating in
hard.
another country brings the pros that you're taken around, you're learning new things, you're maybe taking to these hidden areas that the tourists don't know. Great. But cons could be, yeah, that there's a language barrier. I think language barrier for me is
No.
is the biggest barrier socially.
Okay.
I I studied intensive Italian. I've studied Spanish. Obviously, I'm not even close to native level, although I can get by. My sister calls me fluent because I knew how to say whale watching. Do you know how to say whale watching, Michelle? Whales?
Ballenas.
Yeah, she was like, you know how to say. She was like, you know how to say ballenas. You're fluent, and she argued with me the whole time she was here. She's like, you can do anything we want. I'm like, yeah, I can get by. I can go to the supermarket. I can go to the doctor. I can manage myself. But you're still not connecting on a social level if you're going out with just a group of, Italians or just a group of Panamanians who are only speaking that language.
Language definitely plays a large part in making connections or anything, even when it comes to doing the logistical things of a
Oh,
country.
we got an all con category coming up. Logistics.
Wait, Karen, before we get there, right? Let's hear from Tim and Brittany. We didn't hear what their pros were. We started with the cons. What were their pros?
Oh, yeah, here we go.
All right, so my pro, as we hinted in the con, is that there's so many opportunities to experience awkwardness and get better at growing in awkwardness.
This
And I
is
think
true.
if I'd never gone abroad, I would have just
Yeah.
tried to hide from awkwardness and from potential embarrassment all the time. But now I still try and hide from it, but I just have so many more tools to handle uncomfortable situations and so many more opportunities to put myself out there that I know are going to be okay. Like ordering some food with someone who
yes.
doesn't speak my language, or walking into a place and
And
trying to
not
figure out
knowing.
what to do,
Right.
and being the only person who speaks my language or looks like me in the room. Like that was not something I did in the US. And so
That's true.
that's been a really good opportunity for
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah, that's a really good growth, Brittany. It's a really
Yeah.
good pro.
You said it was going to be my con.
I no, I did. Well, it's a con because some people might not welcome that feeling of awkwardness, and you are, which is
Thank you for welcoming
admirable.
my growth.
Yeah, I know it's really good pro. My pro seems very. I mean,
Do you have a shallow pro now?
I think I have I have two-ish ideas here. Like the first one is like, yeah, when you move abroad, you get to see life being lived in ways that you didn't know was
You
possible,
didn't
right?
know.
That you didn't know, you know? And so it's like you try to understand this world a little bit better. There's so much out there that you can't even imagine until you see it, right?
Mhm.
And so like this exploring the unimagined areas of the world and of my thinking about the world, like that's a huge pro for me.
And that's one of the ways that we tried to pick where we live
That's
right
right.
now.
That's right.
We tried to pick something that we could not quite yet imagine what our life would be like.
Right. Right.
So that's cool.
And that's hard at times, but that's also like really rewarding. I think my other pro is connected to my cons is community, right? Like the moving abroad, at least in the international teaching world, you get into a school and you have a community of people who want to go try stuff and want to have a book club or go out to eat,
You are
you know.
literally undoing your
I know
con.
my con was not well thought out, but that's okay. But so it's like I love this community, and I love the communities that we found, and we've met people that I don't think I would have met, and met types of people that I would not have met, and so
And the ones that we had in the community we don't live in now, but like from Panama,
that's
like you
right,
guys.
like you guys, exactly. So there's a lot to be thankful for around that.
So I gotta say, I agree with Tim. There's certainly a lot to be thankful for. But before we give thanks, we gotta talk about the logistics.
Yeah.
All right, logistics. I just got a disclaimer here. Logistics for me are pretty much all negative, not just where I live abroad, but even logistics at home in New Jersey. But I do have to say, the one way to be somewhat successful at getting the logistical things done is to learn the language as much as you can.
Yes, I agree.
You got to be able to communicate when you go to the bank, the basics, when you move, when you have a problem with your apartment, when you have to go get your driver license.
Yes, yes, and yes. Definitely yes. Yeah. Speaking from a New York perspective, and language, when you go to, say, motor vehicles, or you go to a bank, or you go into whatever governmental office in New York, I don't know about the rest of the states, you can get documents in various languages. And chances are there's somebody in there that can translate, or they have something, but the documents are in that particular language, whatever language you're looking for. Sorry. If you're in another country and you want to do banking, or you need to, do some type of legal paperwork, most likely that's not going to be a convenience that is afforded to you in that country. So definitely
Right.
learning a language.
And I think you can't be of the mindset that, okay, English is the language of the world, because they will not always have things available in English, which is why you need to be able to learn the basics to get done what you need to get done. I will give a shout out to Panama,
Oh,
because there are usually documents or translations available in English.
where? What? No, no,
Uh,
no, no.
Pacifica Salud, my favorite
Oh,
hospital that gave me the
okay.
butt shot.
Yes. Okay. That hospital, yes, because I think they usually deal with international patients. But if you're going to like motor vehicles, you're doing everything in Spanish. Or if you're going to the bank and having to fill out a document or sign a document, that's in Spanish. There's
Yeah.
no translation. Or signing your contract for your apartment, or all those logistical things that you need to do, it's going to be in whatever language. And, I would say Spanish for the US, maybe. I don't know. It might be my personal opinion. It tends to be on the easier side because we're kind of exposed to it in school and whatnot. But I'm thinking like if you're moving to like Asia, you know, that is just like very hard.
The letters don't even look the same. So yeah.
Right. So, you know, it's the
And
problem.
it's not just about the language, but things are not going to work the way they work in your country. And you can't have this constant mindset that in New Jersey, it's not like this, or at home, it works like this. You have to let that go because you're in a new place. And in some cases, once you have mastered the learning curve, things could be easier. I think, for example, banking in Panama is super easy. Everything is done through the app. You can pay every bill through the app.
Okay. Well, another solution is just get yourself a boyfriend or girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and then they'll be able to do all those logistical things with you and hold your hands and guide you through the messy process.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. My husband does that
Yeah.
25 years and I got to renew my like ID card and I'm like, I don't know what to do. 25 years later.
But you know what? This got me thinking. I had to renew my driver's license,
That's nightmare.
and I had to do a hearing test,
Yeah.
which is unheard of in New Jersey. And when I renewed it, you could do it on the website. So here I am. I think I was in HR office,
Uh-huh.
and she's like, "Okay, like you have to." I don't know if I had to raise my hand or move my head or
I
click
think you
a
have to raise your
button.
hand. Yeah, yeah.
But
Or
like
click
a
a button.
hearing test to renew your driver's license, that was unheard of. That was,
Well, you got to hear the horns. Hello.
I mean, that's all you hear when you drive in Panama.
Well,
But
I drive with the music loud. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter if I could hear it or not because I wouldn't be able to hear it because I got the music playing. So
I listen to our podcast as I drive. But yeah, that's how our numbers are going up.
everybody should be listening to us on their drive to work and from work.
Yeah, but seriously, learn the language. It helps with the logistics a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. And I do like your advice. Do not think things are going to function the same way because they're definitely not. And it will be a struggle and it's
In the words
important.
of Michelle, logistics are a
Nightmare. Yeah. Nightmare. Nightmare.
yeah.
Wait. Let's hear what Brittany has to say.
I think my con is literally that I cannot figure out which side of the street everyone walks on in whatever country I'm in. No, this is actually a problem. Remember when we were renting in Panama in the Cinco Costera, and I'd be like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, hold your ground, Tim, and then you would like bail
I
on
would
me.
bail because I'm not good at
Because
playing
Tim does
chicken.
not play chicken.
Yeah,
and
I'm the chicken.
I am
always.
willing to run over someone on the street. And here in Korea, like I was like, okay, like Korea seems like a really orderly society.
Yes.
People are going to have a way. There's not a way that I can find. There might be a way. Like this is my conjecture.
The way is that older folks have the right of way.
Maybe. That's what we think because the amount of time that I'm going to be run down by old people is a lot here.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we like get to Japan. In Japan, they drive on the other side of the street,
Right, on the
which
left
we
side.
did not know
Right.
until we got there.
For the first time.
And then
That's
like
true.
you'd think that people would walk also like on the left.
Right.
That is not consistent either.
No.
So always feeling like I'm going to get run down is my con.
That's a really good con.
I really don't appreciate your tone.
I think it is a good con though. There's lots of things that you learn.
Well, I gotta say, I've never had that problem Brittany has had. I think it's pretty clear in Panama, but I definitely am going to debrief with her about this. But I do have to say, I concur with Tim. There are a lot of things you have to learn when it comes to the logistics, and sometimes it's just not knowing where you need to walk.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a little awkward because when you walk in, I mean, even when you walk into, say, a governmental building, you're kind of like, what do I do? Where do I go? Nothing's in your language. You can't read anything. You can't read a sign. So it's like, do I stand here? Do I go there? Do I, what do I do? Do I raise my hand? How do I do it? So yeah, I could understand what she's saying.
Yes, yes. Nightmare.
Nightmare. All right. I feel like we're focusing on the negative. What are some positive things? What is a good thing, a pro here?
For logistics?
No, let's move on from logistics
Okay,
because that seems to.
food.
Oh,
Next
food.
category, food.
Food. Well, it could be con too, but let's focus on the positive.
I'm going to start with the cons because
Oh
I'm
my
going to
God,
connect this.
no!
I'm going to connect this to something we said earlier. Okay, food.
All right, food. It's a
Living
good
abroad,
thing.
yes, you are exposed
Yes.
to new things. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
But for me, there are two main things you need to think about when it comes to food. First of all, what you might miss from home. In the last episode,
Peanut butter.
I talked about peanut butter and how in Italy it was really expensive and challenging to find peanut butter. But it's not just that. It's also, as I was saying earlier in the episode, home cooked meals, being around family and getting those comfort foods that you're used to. Thanksgiving, that's hasn't really been celebrated. That's not celebrated in Italy or Panama, but I'm the host of Thanksgiving here in Panama, but in Italy, I went to Friendsgiving with some friends. So I think, yeah, you're going to miss things that there's going to be. One of the things I love about Panama is that you can go to the grocery store and find any product you need that you would find in the US. And that might not seem like a big deal, but for me, it's important. When I was in Italy, it was hard for me to find certain comfort foods and American products that I enjoyed, which is why I would fill my suitcase with Target purchases, as I said last episode. However,
Yeah.
I would say with pros, I mean, I was living in Italy. You can't beat Italian food from Italy.
Yeah.
Exactly. New Jersey is a close second. New Jersey has excellent Italian food. However, it's not Italy.
Right. Yeah, I think food is a big pro. I mean, well, I don't know, maybe not, but well, I don't know. Do I think it's a pro now? I'm being indecisive listening to what you're saying. No, it is a pro. I mean, maybe when you first get there, you might think it's a negative, right?
Like, whoa, this is different, or I don't know what this is,
Right.
or where are my Cheetos, or
Right.
yeah.
But I think where are my Cheetos? But I think afterwards, I think it becomes a pro because you get the exposure to different types of flavors and tastes, and there's an appreciation. You grow an appreciation for variety and interesting flavors. I think, in my opinion. But then again, I don't know, Karen, is that a personality thing? Does that go with the personality? Like you have to have that type of personality in order to like openness to new flavors, or I don't know. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, I think that if I think about my own experience, I'm going to go back to Italy for a minute. I grew up Italian American, so I know Italian American food, but in Italy, they don't really have Italian American food in the same way that we do in New Jersey, for example. But I did obviously you're going to restaurants, so you're kind of in a position where you have to try new things. But I think I took it a step further because now I like to make these pastas in my home here in Panama.
Right.
These Roman pastas that I learned and these recipes that I learned. And I feel like super cultural when I do that. I feel really I'm like, wow, none of my friends can maybe make this in the same way. Not none of them, but like people I know I'm so grateful for that exposure that I had to
I
learning
think
about
that,
those things.
And not only that, like, okay, yes. And then you also, like what you said, you miss your home food, whatever it may be. So maybe you didn't know how to make it before you left, or you weren't that really good at making it before you left. And now you want to have that comfort food. So you invest time in trying to make it. So you then become more of an expert in cooking your own home food. You become an expert in cooking new flavors of the country that you are living in. And perhaps because you're doing that, you might be looking into other types of food that you want to explore and or learn how to cook. So I think in that sense, food then becomes something positive.
Like before I moved to Panama, I didn't know what patacones were or yuca
Oh my God,
or
so
like
yummy.
I never had arroz de coco. Oh my God, hojaldra and salchicha. Like these are delicious things that if I ever move from Panama, I'm gonna need to either, I don't know, learn how to make them
Yeah.
or find a place that
Right.
sells them. And if I
Right.
can't find a place, I'm going to miss them and I'm going to want to come back here one day and eat those things.
Yeah.
So I think it opens your mind. It opens, you to what exists. I think there's one other category for food I want to talk about. It's just like food, where you live and food diversity.
Uh-huh.
Um, when I lived in Italy, it was hard to find, for example, really good Thai food or really good Mexican food. And growing up in New Jersey, I had exposure to all of that Greek food, Lebanese food.
Yeah.
But there was at least like one restaurant of each in Rome that I found when I was living there and I would go there. But it's not, like every corner there's a good Chinese place you can order from or
Right.
Mexican place. So I
Right.
feel like Panama has much more food diversity, which is another reason why I'm very happy living here. But considering that, if you're moving to Asia, for example, what you're going to see in the grocery store, you're going to see new things that we don't have,
Yeah.
where we live right now. So
Yeah. Food diversity big here in Panama. I do definitely agree with you. The food here is wonderful and the exposure to the different cultures. If you're living, say, in another part of the world or thinking about moving to a different part of the world, you might not have that. Like you're talking about the grocery store not being able to find anything or exposure to the different types of culinary foods out there because there isn't a population living there or they haven't there isn't a population living there so that restaurant doesn't exist, so that's something to be aware and mindful of. That's what's great about Panama because it is in the middle. Check out your maps, right? It's geographically located in a good position and it has different uh what do I want to say, what's the word, culinary, you have
experiences.
there you go, experiences, so
You can
you can
engage
get
in culinary experiences.
woof from all over the world here because Panama is strategically located.
Yeah.
Get the map, people.
But I would say food mostly pro, but there could be some cons. And do your research before even when you travel, do your research before it. If there's really something you want, you need to know that maybe it's going to be hard to get there. So
Right, if McDonald's is a big thing on your list,
McDonald's is everywhere. I've had McDonald's in Paris and I
but
was
it's
in
not
Paris.
the same.
I was like,
It's not the same.
we need to go to McDonald's in Paris. And I dragged my sister to that McDonald's by the Eiffel Tower. It was delicious.
It's not the same.
Speaking of McDonald's, I think that's a great transition to our next category, which is healthcare.
Oh, okay. Yes, I remember the butt shot. Do you remember the butt shot?
Oh my goodness, the health systems of the countries you live in.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, where we live right now, the healthcare is pretty decent. It's pretty good, but that's something you definitely need to think about wherever you're going, for those moments when you get sick. But I'm happy here in Panama, very, very similar to the US. How was it in Italy?
Italy had a public healthcare system, but they also had private doctors there. So I was able to, find doctors privately if I wanted a doctor that spoke English, or use the public system if I randomly got sick or needed something. The medications were always super cheap.
Hmm.
I also felt like the healthcare there was excellent. A little bit more complicated sometimes, especially if you went through the public system, you would have to wait maybe, I don't know, a few months to get an appointment with a specialized doctor. But
Yeah, I think that sounds very similar to Panama. They have the two, the private and the public is exactly just how you described in Italy, that you would have to wait, a couple of months to get an appointment with some type of specialized doctor or even just, a doctor in general. But if you're going to be moving or you're contemplating moving abroad, that's something that you definitely need to look into is the type of healthcare system and or the cost, insurance, what types of insurance, if you're getting a job, does the job provide you insurance? And what's covered? Because, for example, um, prescriptions might not be covered and you might have to pay out of pocket or you might have to pay more. And also, just as Karen mentioned, the language, being able to talk to a doctor in a different language, very difficult.
Yes.
If you, whatever language, or if you're able to, talk about medical issues in that language, things to
It-
definitely consider.
Yeah, and that's why learning the language, at least the basics to be able to explain and communicate is super important. But again, I found that at least in Panama and Italy, there were doctors that,
Yeah,
we could
spoke.
communicate with my
Yeah.
limited Spanish or Italian, or they're limited English.
Yeah.
But I agree, like certain things are definitely easier. But some things, like for example, in Panama, I find the prescriptions are quite expensive. And the way our insurance works is we then have to submit them for reimbursement. Whereas in the US, every prescription with my insurance was $3 or $5.
Right.
So, and same with Italy, you can walk into a pharmacy and buy an antibiotic with, I think, no prescription and $2.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's another thing. Yeah. The prescriptions work differently. Like, so here you don't need necessarily a doctor's note, a prescription from a doctor to get the medicines at a pharmacy. So, I mean, that's a benefit. That's definitely a pro because, in the United
yes.
States, even if you have pink eye, you got to go see a doctor to get a prescription for that. And that
Yeah.
could be annoying in the United States, but something like here, pink eye, or I don't know, whatever it may be, the minorest thing, you can go to the pharmacist and just get your medication. So
Give
that would
them your
definitely be a problem.
symptoms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was like that in Italy too. And that was great. In fact, when I would then, after I moved from Italy and I would go back and visit, sometimes I would stock up on things from Italian pharmacies just because it was like easier and cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I have a story about an experience I had in the healthcare system here in Panama. About 4 years ago, I had a surgery to remove my gallbladder.
Hmm.
And well, if you Google the complication I got after the surgery, the statistics of getting this complication are 0.4 to 0.7% of people in the world get this
And you got
complication.
it.
That was me. So they didn't know what it was right away. And I was having excruciating pain. And I had a friend here and he, this is where, again, having certain friendships and local friends and can be really helpful because I was trying to be in touch with the doctor. Oh, on WhatsApp, because
Yes.
you can text your doctors in
Oh,
Panama.
Yeah. Excellent.
You can text. Yes, you can. Okay, actually, hold on. Before I finish my story, there are two things I have to point out that are very different. So, yes, the communication with your doctors, they give you their phone number and you can text them.
Yes.
You can call them.
Yes.
You can email them. Whereas in the US, it's like you call the office, the secretary is like not going to put you through.
Yeah,
Maybe
you're
not going to give you an
talking to the
appointment. You're not
doctor.
going to talk. Secondly, when you get when you get an ultrasound or an X-ray,
Oh, yeah.
in the US, they're like, your doctor will contact you in 4 days. And then you're like waiting 4 days.
Yeah.
And then they don't contact you because they're busy or because everything is fine.
Can't
And
get
it's
an
not that
appointment.
serious. And then you're like, oh my God, what are the results of this test? Yada, yada. Okay, Panama, you get the results in your email. I remember a few years ago, I had a test and I was like, I can't open it. I can't open it and like diagnose myself with something, read that I have something without talking to it. Like, so I didn't end up opening it.
What?
No, I was scared. I was scared it was going to be bad news. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
in school or something. But that's also good. I got blood work last week and then within 5 hours, I'm looking, okay, like my results are normal. There's no red stars. If it's abnormal, you're getting the red stars. I don't have the red stars. So
Yes.
I think that's mostly like a pro. It could be a con if you're getting something serious and you're nervous and you don't want to read it and your doctor
Right.
doesn't call you before you see it. However, you can self-diagnose all day long.
I don't know if that's a good thing necessarily, but
I don't know, but it's efficient. It's timely. You can get things done and things are sent directly to you. There's not that barrier that you have to wait for other people to communicate with you.
Yeah, and that's anything. It's your blood work, X-rays, your biopsies, everything. You get everything. So you can look at it and self-diagnose. Definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a pro. That's a pro.
But going back to my surgery. Okay, so I got this complication that happens to less than 1% of people, and I was having all this excruciating pain. My friend, got in touch with the doctor, and they were like, "Okay, come in." So I went back to the hospital, and they did these tests. All my tests came back fine. They did another MRI, they did blood work, like everything was coming back fine, but I was in excruciating pain, and it would come and it would go. And then the next day, he's like, "Okay, I'm going to do another surgery just to check what's going on."
What?
He's like, "I see in your face that something is not correct. So I'm going to do surgery just to check."
To check what's going on. Okay.
To check. So my sister was like, "Can you go get a second opinion?" Meanwhile, I'm in the hospital, like hooked up in this pain with this doctor who I clearly trust because he did my surgery the first time in the best hospital in Panama. And I'm like, "No, I can't go to surgery just to check." So they basically just wheel me back into the operating room. I don't even know if I gave consent. I was like, okay, like, I don't know. I guess this is what we're doing. And that's where he found the complication. But a good friend of mine said, "You are so lucky because in the US, they never would have done like an exploratory surgery just to check. They would have said, your tests are fine, go home.
Right.
Your blood work is fine. You're fine. You can't deal with the pain."
Right.
But because this doctor, he, like, it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm concerned about being sued or insurance," or I don't know, maybe he was, but he made this decision just based on how my face looked and based on his sense of the patient. And he saved my life. He discovered this problem. So
wow.
Yeah. So I feel like very lucky not to have gone through that, but lucky that I had this experience in Panama with the healthcare system.
Yeah. Different healthcare system, different rules. And like you said, depending on the reasoning, like, where we come from, that wouldn't have happened. You would have had to wait. Maybe you would have even like gone home and had to have like an ambulance come get you. And then maybe something would have been done. So yeah, definitely before you go, check your system, know your insurance, and look into what it is that you have to do, because you just never know. Even though you're young, you never know when you might be needing medical attention.
Right. But the quality of, like, I'm very happy with the quality of healthcare and doctors that we have here in Panama.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I had in Italy. Yeah. All right. Last category. We're going to switch to jobs/career/work, because that's the reason, at least I'm living abroad.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, yes, you must have that figured out before you jump on a plane and decide to get married and I'm going to move to a foreign country kind of thing. Because that was not in my plan at all. I had no idea what I was going to do when I got here, Karen. Zero. So I got here, I got married, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do for a living? Because I don't speak the language. What am I going to do?
I mean, I have a job and I'm still like, what am I going to do forever?
But what's funny, what's funny is, like, okay, the honeymoon period wears off like a month later, and it's like, okay, now you need to work. What are you going to do? So literally, my husband put me in his Toyota Tercel, which was like this little green car. And he's like, I'm going to take you to a place and you're going to go in and get a job. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So he drives me and he pulls up to the parking lot and he's like, okay, here, go inside and ask for a job.
Oh my
And I'm like, what do you mean go in and ask for a job? It was a language center, right?
Okay.
He was like, go teach English. And I'm like, I looked at him. I was like, just because I speak English, that doesn't mean I can teach English. I'm like, I have no idea how to teach English.
Is that why you're a teacher?
Yes, this is why I'm a teacher.
Wow. I never knew that story.
Yeah. So we pull up to the place And he literally opens the door and I'm like, I'm not getting out. He's like, no, go in and ask for a job. And I'm like, I don't know how to teach English. He's like, it doesn't matter. Just go ask for a job. I'm like, I can't ask for a job. He's like, just go in. I'm like, I don't teach English. He's like, it doesn't matter. You speak English. I'm like, I can't teach English because I say, anyway, long story short, I went in, had an interview on the spot, got the job. 25 years
Wow.
later, I'm teaching. I'm in teaching now.
Wow. But I think that's a good point that you need to, depending, if you don't have a job before you move, you need to
Definitely
hustle, you
have a
need to push
plan.
yourself, you
Yeah.
need to figure out like what you can do, what your skills are.
Yeah.
Um, as an international teacher, I think, I mean, the whole reason I wanted to leave New Jersey initially was because I wanted to grow, as a
Okay.
person,
Yeah.
but also as a teacher. And I said this in a previous episode that I didn't want to be the same teacher at the school until basically I retired, doing the same thing. And I
Right.
think I've been exposed to a whole different clientele of students, different type of school, different colleagues. And I feel like it's been such a positive for me to be able to grow and not feel bored in my profession.
Yeah. You should have a plan. Not like me. I didn't have a plan. But I was young enough where, just for the record, I did go get a teaching degree.
Right.
So yeah, I had time to do that, and I got my master's in teaching as well.
Mhm.
So, but that's how I ended up. You definitely need a plan. But I like what you said about definitely can grow, because I just think the whole idea of moving abroad, and if you're thinking about doing it, there is just so much personal growth that happens when you move
Mhm.
abroad. You you learn to, you're independent. I think you mentioned that in the last podcast as well. You're very independent, and you see how strong and resilient you are and able to accomplish many, many things, that perhaps skills you wouldn't develop if you were at home, wherever your
or
home may be.
or how resilient you're not, or
Oh
how you
yeah.
don't
Or
or how you
or
don't feel in certain situations.
yeah, or you might like, this sucks. I gotta go. This is not for me, which is
It's
fine
not,
too. Totally fine
yeah.
too. I mean, you spent a lot of money, you did it, but you learn something about yourself. But yeah, I think there's just so much growth, so much experience. You learn about perspectives, you see things in a different way.
Mhm.
So I think it's a very positive experience, whether it be temporary, and you're moving from different place, very nomadic, or whether it be someone like me who, like, like I fell in love with this foreigner, and now he's asking me to move. Should I move? You know, some things to think about.
So, yeah, I mean, wrapping up, we've talked about those five categories of social, logistical, food, healthcare, jobs.
Hmm.
Um, I think obviously there are going to be pros and cons wherever you live, even if you're in your home country.
Yeah.
But when it comes to living abroad, I mean, just some tips and tricks, I guess, that come to me are definitely take the effort to immerse yourself in that culture and learn the language, even if it's
Yeah.
the basics that you can communicate and get things done on your own.
Exactly. And it'll be a growing experience, and you'll be a stronger, better person probably at the
Mhm.
end of the journey, whatever it may be.
Right. Ask for help when you need it. Make friends,
Definitely have to make friends.
the locals, make friends with the
Get
locals.
mixed with
Don't
the
don't
locals.
stick in your little, whatever
Comfort zone.
contingent,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
of where you come from. Be open to new things, whether it's food or
Yeah,
doctors
oh, so,
or exploratory surgeries.
yeah. You definitely I'm going to start talking about something else. I don't want it. We're ending. Sorry. Next, that'll be for another time.
Ending thoughts are what I've realized is you're always going to romanticize where you were before. Like, I was ready,
Ooh,
I was ready to
yeah.
I was ready to leave Italy. I was ready to leave New Jersey. But now that I've been in
Yeah.
Panama 6 years, I'm like, oh my God, I want to move back to Italy. Why did I ever leave Italy? Or I need to go back to New Jersey. Why did I? And then I'll eventually I'll move and I'll be like, how could I ever give up that apartment in Panama City? So it's like I think
Yeah.
you're always going to romanticize how things were once you move away from them.
Yeah. Wow. Great point. Great point. Great point. People think the grass is always greener on the other side, or you want to go back to what it is, but you got to take a look and appreciate that apartment that overlooks the ocean in Avenida Balboa in Panama,
Right.
and be thankful for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for listening.
You made it.
If you don't know us and you're listening, can you leave us a comment and tell us who you are? Because we have fans in places that we don't know.
I know, right? All over.
Connect with us. Write us on social media. Write us a message. Leave a comment. Tell us who you are. Do you like us? Give
Who's
us
in
your thoughts.
Raleigh?
Yeah.
Raleigh, North
California.
Carolina, California,
Mexico,
Florida,
Canada.
Canada in the house. Yeah.
We know our South Korean and Japan and Italian and fans, but yeah, some of us, we don't know where some of you are. So connect with us.
All right. Until next time. Congratulations and thanks for listening.
We really appreciate it.
You made it to the end.
There we go.
Remember to follow our show and comment below.
And if you really liked us,
Connect with us on social media at the Nobody Talks About It podcast.
until next time.
Bye.